inside and get yourself something cool to drink.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Between the Lines podcast. I am your host, Lost in Translation Podcast. Tonight's show is going to be a good show. It was inspired by one of those situations where God wakes you up in the middle of the night and says, I need you to say something. So guess what? I'm going to say it. Tonight's show is predicated on the scripture, Mark 8:36. And it says, for what shall a man profit if he gain the whole world and lose his soul? Now, what happens is a lot of times we feel the pressure in relationships to overperform. And sometimes it puts a strain on a relationship because it doesn't put God first. I remember growing up, one of my grandmother's favorite verses was one of those situations where she would say that, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and now everything else will be added unto that. And I really believe that. And it's one of those situations where if you don't put God first, then you're gonna have a problem. So to help me out with tonight's show, I got a special guest. Y'all know her from What's Happening on These Streets. Y'all put y'all hands together for the one and only Miss Jamie in the building.
What's up?
What's happening, Miss Jamie?
What's up? Nothing much. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this is going to go and how the conversation happens, like what we dive into. Hopefully people get in the chat and voice their opinions, and we can talk about that too. So I'm excited for tonight. How are you been? How's your day been? First of all, hold on. Let's be a little selfish here. How has your day been?
I've been sleepy.
Have you really?
Yes, I didn't get no sleep last night because, I've been excited about this particular topic because everybody likes to focus on the surface level stuff. But here on this show, we like to get in between the lines and find out exactly what it is that make people tick and why they do what they do.
Right.
And most times in these situations, it's we don't keep the main thing. So that's why I'm glad I brought you on tonight, because this one was a situation that was inspired by me. In the middle of the night, God woke me up. He was like, I need you to talk about this because it's a focus that's got our people in a twist. And between the different body count conversations and all this other stuff, I don't think that's that important anymore. I think it's our relationship with God that we really need to work on and start being a little bit more comfortable having that conversation amongst our company.
I agree. I completely agree. I do think that we do divert from that conversation of what our relationships with God look like for as a man, and then what does that look like for as a woman, right? And instead we just kind of shift the blame on other things other than the foundation. So, yep, we about to go in, are we not?
Exactly. One of the talking points that we hear, man, is a man supposed to protect and provide or whatever. And I don't think what happens is people understand that there's a time for rest and everything too. And in our pursuit of getting things and buying things and, having things that actually we tie ourselves into where we feel like we actually become who we are through the stuff that we buy. And we put ourselves through unnatural processes. We work more than, 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. And we really don't foster the relationships that we're actually working toward or working for, I've had situations where people will just work, and they neglect their family. They neglect their relationships. You know what I mean? It's like all in the favor of money and pursuit and recognition from other people. And it destroys the family. And basically we call it hustle culture. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I call it avoidant. It's kind of like the parent like to say, I provided for you, didn't I? But you didn't provide like nurturing or emotional stability or just even understanding how to deal with like life. Really, you just worked your problems away. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we do call it hustle culture, but just avoidant parenting is what I had said. Is that by saying that we're providing financially, we feel like we provided for the kid entirely, and we didn't. So yeah, hustle culture will make you think you're doing the right thing, and it'd be completely wrong.
Right. And then when we say the road to hell is paid with good intentions. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
I mean, think about it. You have situations where parents really don't sit down and teach kids basic morals,
No.
that type of thing. You know what I mean?
No, not
And
at all.
I've seen situations where parents teach kids how to be manipulative, that type of thing. And it doesn't really set them up for success. And that's the reason why when they come together and when they get older and they start dating and have families of their own, they speak a language that's not the same. You'll have one person who talks manipulation and another person talks sacrifice. So when you put those two people together, somebody always winds up getting robbed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
one of those
completely agree.
situations. Go ahead. You were saying?
No, I think I have a delay.
No, you spot on. You clean. You clean.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna add anything yet. I got something to say though.
Go ahead. Say this is our show. You
I
gotta
was
get
gonna
to
say we gotta kind of add grandparents in there too, because I think about, sometimes my mom would be like, "You're not gonna do this at your grandparents' house," and then I would get to my grandma's house. My grandma would be like, "Okay, we're gonna do this, but don't tell your mom." And that's the first introduction to lies sometimes, is because you don't tell your parent all the good stuff you get to do at grandma's house. And so it seemed innocent again, but it does teach us to be manipulative, or I'm gonna tell my grandma and my grandma's gonna make you do it. Do you see what I'm saying? So
right.
I'm gonna throw the grandparents under the bus too. Yes, I am. I'm going to.
They've
They
earned the
mean
right.
yeah, I'm throwing them under the bus because you see it all the time. And that's why grandparents like their grandkids more, because they get to do the things that they wish they could have did with their own children.
Right.
Yes, I'm throwing grandparents under the bus. Just wanted to let them have some responsibility, because if we're going to train a child in the right way so that they can be good wives and husbands, it has to start with the grandparents too, right? Like they're a part of the foundation. And so we have to hold everybody accountable.
Right.
All the way around. So
Absolutely.
okay, what were we about to say? I just think I wanted to throw grandparents under the bus. My mother spoiled us, and that's why I'm just saying.
It ain't nothing like grandparents, man. It's just like saying, like, when it's time to go to grandma's house, you already know you're gonna get everything you wanted.
Yeah.
You're gonna get all the juice, the bananas, whatever they got, you're gonna get a little money in your pocket. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think we have relationships, man, with people. We want to make sure that solid foundation is there, because we rob our kids of grandparents when we don't do it the right way. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations. But I'll give you an example tonight. Ambition says I can make it happen on my own. The mission says God guide my steps and I'll follow. Ambition without God is like a car with no GPS. You'll be moving, but you may end up lost. That's why Proverbs 19:21 tells us, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is in the Lord's purpose that prevails. So I'm going to bring up a video that actually started this whole thing out. And it came up after I had the revelation in the middle of the night. And once I saw this, I was like, this encapsulates everything that I wanted to say in a short little clip. And I'm going to share this with you guys.
So you are literally in my morning journaling session, and I will for sure be bringing you along on more of these sessions. But I do have to be real with you about what came up for me this morning, and even the real reinvention I'm going through right now. So story time. For most of my life, hustle and grind were 110% the way that I lived. And growing up in the projects in Brooklyn in the 80s and 90s, if you've been there, you know, hustle seemed like the only way to survive. And honestly, blessings, it got me very far. I went to college, I went to graduate school, I got a great job, but it also burnt me the hell out. And I got so used to almost kind of believing that my worth came from how much I pushed myself and how much I produced. But I don't want to live like that anymore. And I don't want to hustle my way to burnout. I don't want to feel like I have to earn rest. So the motto that I have decided that I am living by right now is peace and overflow are not a prize for suffering. They are my natural state of being. And let me tell you, I write that down every single day. And every single day I write it, I feel so much lighter and so much freer. And it reminds me that success gets to feel good and I don't have to earn rest. So I want to know, what about you? Are you still feeling like you're hustling for your worth? Do you still feel like you're stuck in this hustle culture? Because it's really hard to let go of. And are you ready to reinvent what success really means like to you, like I am? So drop a comment down below if this is hitting you, because I really want to hear from you and to see if we are all trying to move out of hustle culture and a little bit more into rest, relaxation, freedom, fun, and joy. That is definitely my reinvention.
Shout out to Jasmine. I don't know if y'all can hear that last part or not, but she was talking about rest and relaxation, and you don't have to earn that. Do you feel like people actually think they have to earn rest and relaxation?
Yeah, I mean, like I did. I grew up in a house where, technically, yeah, if you look like you was resting and relaxing, you know, it would be like there's stuff to do. Like you need to get up. There's like something for you to do, and basically it was like, oh, you didn't earn that. You didn't earn that rest. Like you didn't earn. We got get up. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to make sure I don't stay, because like my life was different. So I don't want to say that's for everybody, but I mean, like, what was it for you? Because like I grew up in a house with a foreigner. Like I was just raised, you know, by somebody who crossed the border, like who like had to work like all their life for real. So they don't know what rest is. They can't teach you what rest is or like taking a break is when they've never done it themselves.
Right.
So I mean, that's not everybody else's reality. And I would say, like, growing up with foreigners, like that was all of them. So that was a part of our culture, per se.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know, like what would it be for you? I swear I hate my generation always looking for easy.
He said he's looking for the easy way. He said, I don't agree with anything she's saying. Yo, listen, I think there's a certain guilt that comes from getting rest. And I think sometimes, man, we put an undue pressure on ourselves because we want to do it our way. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times we've gone through families or whatever, and we see all the men just burnt out. Either they ain't there, or they died, or they gone. And most times that's not a conversation that we really have, because they were busy providing to the point where they were exhausted. And, you know, once they're used up, they're used up, you know, and then that's why you have a whole family full of nothing but women. And a lot of times we're thinking maybe they ran them off or whatever. No, they just worked them to death. You know, they didn't really undergird those particular men to give them the strength that they need to carry on. I mean, think about it, man. Grandparents used to last, man, 80, 90 years. That's because they had support of their wives and family, you know. Now, man, you know, parents, man, guys burn out at 40 years old, 50 years old, and they're up out of here. You know, they said the average retirement age is what, 62?
Yeah,
you know, the average black man is up out of here by 68. You know, you mean to tell me you got 6 years after you didn't work you to death that you get to rest? Man, come on.
I think I agree with you. I believe that it was because they didn't understand what rest was before that. So like they just didn't take a day. You know, I think it, like, I don't know what she meant by what she was saying. Like, what does that look like for her? Because she said, will you redefine it for you? Do you get what I'm saying? But if we look at like the biblical way that God laid out things, he did give us a day of rest. He said that the day before this day of rest was the day to prepare to do that. Right. But we don't do that.
No,
we don't
use every drop
of it, right? Including it. And then we're like, God bless it, bless us, bless what we're doing. And he's like, no, I want intimate relationship with you so I could fill you up right? So that people can get from your overflow and not from the little droplets that you wearing yourself out. You know what I'm saying? Like you are. I didn't tell you to do that. So like that's where I would say I think people just don't understand, because people said the Sabbath wasn't, they changed the Sabbath. Let's talk about real history, right? They changed the Sabbath. They make Sunday the day. They tell us that we have to go to church all day Sunday and we have to work in the church. So we're still not resting in the Lord. We're doing church building work.
Right.
We're really not observing what God said to do. And so we're missing out on that day of rest that he created specifically for who? For man, for him and man together.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with her in a sense, but I feel like if we're going to do it, we just need to do it the Bible way. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like she should have been a little bit more detailed, but I think maybe she was vague so that she could have a little bit more engagement. I'm not like not in a bad way, but just so that people didn't feel like she was just telling them what to do. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like that's the way.
Exactly. And what people don't realize is when you commune with your family, you get to have those conversations that you really did have. Maybe, you got a kid that's going through some stuff at school or whatever. That particular day can be set aside and say, hey, look, what happened at school? And well, this happened. Well, this is how you handle that. That's how we would dispense wisdom. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So that way we learn how to overcome certain things. Right. And a lot of times we don't have conversations like we have, like how to run a house. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Yeah. Buying a mortgage, buying a house with a mortgage without, starting a business, those particular conversations. But instead we focus on little minute trivial stuff like what came on Netflix, what's the next movie, and we veg out. In that amount of time that we lose, we could be using that to pour into our children and also solidifying relationships between our spouses. Does that make sense?
I think that yeah, I agree with you. But that's actually where people get uncomfortable. And I will even say that in the beginning of that, silence is okay too. A lot of times you could say a lot without saying anything at all, right? If you are in the presence of the Lord when it happens. And silence for people is uncomfortable in our society too. Just really just sitting with each other and looking at each other and really observing like body language. What are you okay? Are you sure you okay? I feel like you lying. Your body is telling me something different. We don't even pick up on human cues no more. I think about conversations you have with people sometimes and you could tell I'm not engaged in this conversation, but you still keep talking to me. Like
I just glazed over.
How detached from reality are you where you gonna keep going? I'm like, what is wrong with people? You don't see that I'm not engaged in this with you. And those are things like with rest, like what you're talking about, that you can pick up on just by taking that break and experiencing that. I agree with you. I don't know how Black people can start incorporating that, because I think our people are real stubborn. Am I being judgmental?
I agree.
A little bit.
There's a certain inferiority that's baked in to us, Think about it. We grow up, we hear things like you got to work twice as hard to get half as much, that type of thing. And they bake that into us. So we're actually burning ourselves up for what? Now, if we're being honest, if it's kind of hard to catch up if the rest of the world is on hyperdrive and we're just moping around,
That's true.
And
but I don't feel like we should. Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't feel like we should have to work twice as hard, though. I think naturally Black people and our people do excellent work, right? When we just do good work, period. Even at our laziest, we still can produce good work. The point is just do the work that you know that you have been hired to do, and not try selfish ambition. If you would remove your selfish ambition from this, you wouldn't be overworked like that. Right? If you just want to steward what God gave you to the best of your ability and use your work as your mission field, you'd be good. But the selfish ambition is what really kind of wears us out too. Is like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I have this. and I'm going to make sure that I have that. And I want to make sure that I can do this. But is that really worth it when you die early?
Right.
Or when you can't enjoy the fruits of your labor?
Right. Think about it. You mess around and you work and you bust your tail, and then you die, and then everything that you get gets passed on to everybody else, and they get to enjoy your fruit. Now that's noble. You know what I'm saying? But at some point, you got to be a little selfish. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't work
Right.
yourself to the bone.
Exactly. Wait, can you pull up Trey's comment again? I want to know what he mean by that. Does he feel like we should work 24/7? Like, I just want to know, like, does he feel like we should never take a break? What does he mean? Like,
No, I know what Trey talking about. Trey talking about people being lazy and looking for the easy way out. Now, I don't agree with being lazy. I believe in putting in some work. And then if anybody believes in work, I know Trey believes, because sometimes Trey will talk about he had 2-3 jobs, making it happen. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So I think he's talking about people not putting in the effort. You know what I mean?
does
So
he
I think
feel like
that's all
what
what it
she
is.
said was saying not to put the effort in, though? Is that what, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, does he feel like
Well,
Perfidy?
if you think about it, if you look at the baby boomer generation,
Okay.
that's all they did. That's all they had was to work. You know what I
Right.
mean? And every now and then they'll get drunk on Saturday night and then call it a day and go back to, go to church. And then after that, grind off through Monday through Saturday.
Right.
Then Gen X came, you know what I mean? They worked and they hustled or whatever, but they were left to their defenses as kids. They call them latchkey kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you had a certain freedom, but, when we was out there hustling, we was hustling to get paper. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So we wanted to make sure that we got what we wanted to get, and then we turn around and give what we wanted to give to our kids, so they felt like they didn't miss out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we missed out on this, so I want our kids to have that. Well, what that does, that actually creates the next generation, is a generation of entitlement. They think that everybody's supposed to give them stuff. So I think that's the reason what Trey was talking about. We are living with the generation that's after us, who feel as if, you're supposed to give them things. If people like you, they give you things. You know what I mean? That type of thing. And they don't respect the hustle. They just want the fruit, but they don't expect the growing season.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to reap, but nobody wants to sow.
Man, listen. I mean, this generation is rebellious. Like, they don't respect authority. So, and not at all. No fear of authority. Mm-hmm. So, I guess we do have to take responsibility for the way that they act, is because we provided, and we didn't want them to suffer the way that we did. But suffering does create perseverance. And the Bible says that, right? It says that those trials and tribulations will make you into a great person if you allow it to. Now, people do play victim. And
how can it make you be something if you quit? You know what I'm saying? You got to persevere through it, so that way you'll develop through the process. And I think that's the situation where people quit, and I think that's why they skip out on the fiery crucible to burn off all the other stuff, so you're left with nothing but the gold. You know what I mean? Or brass, or whatever it is people are made out of these days.
Do you, in your life, do you feel like you struggle between hustle culture and your mission?
Well, I have. But the minute that I started aligning, my mission with my hustle, then it didn't seem so much as work, because I had an idea of what I was supposed to do now.
Right.
And then what happens is, when you start doing what you're supposed to do, when your hustle meets your mission, that's when God provides. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think in the Bible there's a passage where he said, I commanded a raven to feed you there. Sometimes your provision may come from somewhere else. You had no idea, but it's your obedience that provides you what you need in the absence of where you think you should be. You know what I mean? You know your mission, but you just don't know where your provision coming from. But if you're obedient and you go where he tell you to go, then there'll be a raven that'll feed you.
Man, I've lived that. I've lived that, where you're like, okay, what is this? What do you got me doing here? And then you're focused on the mission, seeking God at the same time too. And then all of these things start happening for your life, and you're like, oh, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect for you to provide for me like that. I didn't know that this was going to happen like this. And so okay, this is good. How does somebody who isn't a believer, like not, or like struggling with their belief system, like how do they get to the point where they align their what do you call it, ambition with the mission?
Right.
What does that look like for them?
Well, here's the thing. You have to get around people who understand who they are. So that way they can help you understand who you are. I'll give you an example. I look back on my whole entire life, and everything that I've done has led up to this particular moment.
Man.
You know, and once I think about it, as a kid, you know, I learned how to play music by ear, which led me to take piano classes, that type of thing, to get more cultured when it comes to music. Well, that portion of me uses that to do this podcast. You see what I'm saying? And then when I went to school, I learned a little bit about math and science and that type of thing, which leads me into the computers, which also leads me to have another skill, which allows me to do this podcast.
Right.
Then on top of that, my dad was a radio announcer. So as a little boy, he used to take me to the radio station. So now I know what my voice is supposed to sound like. You know, I know how to work with boards, that type of thing. And I went to church every Sunday, whether I wanted to or not. You know, my house was next door to the church, so it was no excuse. You know, I was not allowed to miss. You know what I mean? If I fell asleep, my grandmother would pinch me on my arm. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you catch that.
Okay.
You know, and I was always curious. You know what I'm saying? I was always curious. I always wanted to know the meanings behind things. I was always a very, very curious child. And I always remembered things. I had a very vivid imagination. I also had the ability to recall in just about anything. If you say anything, people just call me Google. You know what I mean? Just out of the blue, we'll have a conversation like, why do you know that? You know what I'm saying? But it's good for conversations because it allows people to be more personable, because you never know what you have in your toolbox that you get to pull out to allow you to connect to somebody else. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
After that, I went to school, played in a band or whatever. And as you can see, I showed you my video the other day where I made that my new intro song, you know what I mean, for my other channel. And that led into that, and it just moves on to the next thing. Then you have experiences in the jobs that I've done. I worked in banks, so I know a little bit about money. You know what I mean? That type of thing, finances. I know how to talk to people. I know I was a leader for most of my career at the bank, so I know how to talk to people. I know how to lead people. You know what I mean? That type of thing. I know how to get people to move past what they think they can do, and also nurture and foster whatever it is that they need to have, and find out what their motivation is and tie it into the mission of what we need to do as a company. So that way everybody wins. I'm looking for win-win situations. Then after that, I learned how to sell cars. And that really made you have to be honest with people and say, hey, look, I know you came in for this, but you don't want that car. You want this particular one because it does X, Y, and Z like you said you wanted. Let's see what we can do to make sure that we get you what you need and put somebody else's, services above your own particular needs. Then after that, I sold other things, that type of thing, and jury and talking to people and find out, why they want to get married. Just having conversations with people. Married couples, when they come in, they used to buy rings all the time. And we'll have these conversations. How did you guys meet? Tell us what's going on. Well, I mean, so, that type of thing. And then we're like, okay, great. Look, I said, don't go wild and crazy getting your first ring now. You can always upgrade later, that type of thing. Don't go out there and buy the biggest thing, hit your girl upside the head.
Right.
And talk to the girl, say, don't work him to death now. He's trying to put in work for you. That type of thing. Learning how to have those conversations with people. So every last one of my jobs ties into who I am and leads me up to right now. All the experiences I've ever had leads me up to this now. So I'll be able to talk to and speak to as many people as possible. The problem is that people don't understand that they're walking libraries. Every experience that you have is a chapter in a book, in a library. That is you. There's an old saying that says when an old person dies, it's the equivalent of a whole entire library burning down. And I think when we don't talk to people, we don't sit there and turn past the pages of their hearts to learn who they truly are. So that way we get to know who they are. And then we share the books that are inside our hearts and say, hey, look, if you read into me, you'll get more out of this situation. let's read each other. And I think that's the real reason why our relationships struggle, because we have a literacy issue.
Well, they don't like to. We don't like to read.
Right.
Right. A lot of us don't like to read. What do we do? Even when we get an email, we read the beginning and the end. Seldom do it if they ever read the middle. Like, I mean, like, as far
But it's the TLDR, too long did not read. You know what I'm saying?
many times you make a flyer and they ask you the question that's already answered on the flyer.
Right.
Right. They'll say, how much is it? And I'm like, it's right. It's right there on
Right.
the flyer. So we do have a literacy problem. And I can't even say why we do have a literacy problem. We could use, I would say, slavery as an excuse because people like to do that.
Right.
But at some point, we got to stop using that as an excuse and just say that we are lazy and we don't want to. It's easy. It's easier to be the victim. I'm starting to realize that it's easier for people to just be like, I just can't, I can't do it. I just don't know. Something's wrong. No, you're lazy. And lazy for emotional health, like working and making it look like you're healthy. We like to do that. We like the optics of a situation, but we don't like the depth of it. So I do think that you have touched on something, because when I look at my life, I know for a fact, like each place was a training ground for where I am here, right? And sometimes when I look at it, I didn't look at that place as a training ground. I looked at it as a hindrance and a waste of time. But really, no, it really wasn't. He had me there for a specific reason, to get a specific like set of skills, right? That I probably would have never got. I think I've been in every position that I've been in without the education that somebody would have went to school for. He just put me there, right? I've gotten even jobs where I didn't have to do real interviews. Like I would just talk on the phone to somebody and they'd be like, oh, you're hired. I'm like, what? Did that make no sense? Like people go through interview processes. You don't want to do that for me. That's favor, right? And so if they look at their lives and they look at their even current job that they hate, because a lot of us will go to work just because we want to provide for the things that we want. Is that job a part of your training ground, and are you missing an opportunity to? It seems like to me, like you're talking about getting to know people, but it's a form of evangelizing, right? It's a form of like really sowing into people's spirits, getting to know them, and having that moment to see, like, can I affect this person within the little time that I know them, and can they affect me? Like, what can I learn from them? And I think it's sad. I mean, like, I'm nosy, so I ask a lot of questions no matter where I go. Like, I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, how old are you? Why do you like that color? What made you think that was okay? So how long you been like that?
Right.
When you got up this morning, did you have an attitude like that? Like it's been a bad day all day? Like I'll do that. That's why I think it's funny when you're talking, because I'm like, oh, I thought it was the only person that's they call me nosy. You not nosy. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And maybe nobody asked you for today. So maybe this is enough of a conversation to help turn your day around. You know what I mean? Like I just had a client, she just left. And when she sat down, she wasn't sitting down for a therapy session. She said, but I feel like I should just let my job know that when I come to you, this is a form of therapy, because now I have a solution to the problem that technically you just showed me that it wasn't a problem.
Right.
We just talked it through. Right. But yeah. Okay. So now let's okay. So this is for this type of knowledge can go for somebody saved or unsaved.
Right.
Is you have to now look at every place that you have been at and what knowledge you have and how that applies to your mission. I do think that everybody knows what their mission is in some sense, like what they're good at naturally that they don't have to work for.
Right. Absolutely. I'll give you an example in situations like that. Say, for instance, a person doesn't go to church. They don't know God, that type of thing.
Okay.
And we do. Sometimes our behavior can rub off on somebody else. Say, for instance, you see your girlfriend yelling at her boyfriend or whatever, and then you pull her to the side and say, hey, look, the Bible says that a gentle answer turns away wrath. So he probably won't act up if you come to him a little more milder, that type of thing. Let me show you how to do it. So, honey, I really do appreciate everything that you do. And you are the leader that I have always wanted. Listen, I have some concerns, you know what I mean? And I've noticed that how this, that, and the other is usually not up to your standards or whatever, because I know you want the best. Let me ask you a question. How is it that we can get to where we need to get to? That type of thing, have that type of conversations and kind of walk them through that. Because if you haven't gone to church, you don't know scriptures right offhand, you hadn't spent that much time, we can always take a little bit of what we know, give it to them and apply it. And then after a while, they'll be like, you know what you said, ask, where did you get that from? Oh, it's in Proverbs chapter, and then walk them right on to that, just a little bit at a time. Because I think sometimes people are afraid of what they don't understand and what they don't know. And sometimes we can confuse that for laziness, for fear or lack of knowledge, or because they don't want everybody to think that they don't know. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Our people perish for lack of knowledge.
Right.
And the reason why that is because we're fearful that we don't want everybody to know that we don't know. I'll give you an example. When it comes to money, I think Black people, they know how to make the money, but they don't know how to invest it. And Trey will tell you, Trey takes time out with little boys all the time to teach them how to invest, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So they have a certain innocence about them where they'll say, hey, I'm just a kid, I'm not supposed to know. Well, how do you have that conversation with somebody who's 40, 50 years old who hasn't saved up for retirement? And now they're embarrassed because, retirement is knocking on the door. They haven't done anything. How do you bridge that conversation with somebody who everybody thinks they're supposed to know, but they don't know? That's a different type of fear.
So I believe that kind of starts early on. The fear of looking like you don't know and feeling shame or guilt or just feeling stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did I not know that? But I do believe it starts early. Like I think a lot of times it's the adult around the individual that helps aid in that negative, the negative way of thinking that if I don't know something that I think I should know, or that by this age I should know, that I should be having fear against it or shame. I think I know it starts early, just because like being in the school system and watching how if a kid doesn't know something,
right,
how they're made to feel,
right,
and then how they retract, like even if like they'll just act like they know and they don't really know,
right,
after that. So after the first embarrassment, then they pretend.
Yep, they sure do.
And that literally carries on through everything they do.
Yep. What does that look like in an adult? As a child that grew up and they live in that mode where they just clam up and don't say anything and pretend like everything is okay. What does that look like in your experience?
It looks like somebody that's like pretending, one, but it's just shameful and angry, aggressive a little bit, or it just depends. It depends on the level of suppression of pretending that they had to do throughout life, like how many times they have been put to shame every time they did ask a question.
Right.
But it's bad. Like there's some, like I could give an instance just about the other day where I was like, are you pretending? And then the kid goes, maybe. I was like, okay, listen, if you don't know.
I might be. I'm glad you asked though. So now you gotta ask you for help,
I just might be, but I need to know where you're coming from when you say that. I'm like, if you don't know, you have to tell me, because how can I teach you or explain to you what you're not understanding if you don't know? Like if you don't tell me. But it's because they didn't feel safe, because at some point prior to meeting me, they had been made to feel like they should have known whatever they didn't know. Right. So long story short, he was like, no, I don't know. I really don't know. So I was like, okay, well, you're going to know by the time we're done here, though. That's what's going to happen today, because we really have no excuse for it. If you can play video games all day and you can play YouTube and you know how to work that stuff, you're going to know how to do this by the time we leave today. But
Right.
what if I would have never asked the kid, are you lying to me? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I feel like you're lying in this instance. I feel like there's a little bit of you manipulating me a little bit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I in trouble? I mean, that kid was wild. I might be lying, but am I in trouble?
Right. But you
So
know,
there was,
as children of God, we do God the same way. God, if I come talk to you, am I in trouble? You
mhm,
know what I mean? That type of thing. And it's real uncomfortable. But here's the thing, I'm
mhm,
gonna put your mind at ease. God is not gonna charge you for doing something that you don't know. Remember, he knows everything. You
right.
know, he loves to share stuff with you, but you can't be afraid. And it's
Mm,
that fear that we have to get people over. Because here's the thing, if he has access to everything that you need,
mhm.
then why be afraid?
That's true.
Wouldn't your relationships be worth it? You
Yeah.
know, wouldn't your finances be worth it? Wouldn't your relationship with God be worth it? You know, you'll actually spread love more abundantly if you plugged into the electricity. You know what I'm saying? If you plug
Yeah.
into the main source, right?
Right. Well, but people don't understand. So the Bible says that we're supposed to have a healthy fear of the Lord, but I believe that they don't understand that type of fear versus the fear that causes them to not want to tell him the truth.
Right.
They don't know how to distinguish between the two. Fear just means fear to people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they don't know that, okay, when he says you have to have a healthy fear of the Lord, that means to be able to honor, to be able to, know that you are stepping to a holy being, like the holy king, right? So there's still got to be a level of respect. But because people don't understand what true respect is, they just be like, okay, well, I can't tell God anything because he's just going to be angry, and I don't know how that's going to work out. I just fear this God because he gets angry and he floods everything, or he does fire and brimstone, so he's not going to understand me. And that's not the case. So they have to be able to distinguish what fear truly means, what the difference between those two fears are, to be able to be comfortable to say, hey, God, look, I don't like the way this feels. When this happened, people have always shut me down or made me feel like I shouldn't have asked that question, but I don't know the answer. That's like people have gone to church, for years and don't really know God. How does that feel at 50, 60 years old to say that I just went to church? I don't know the God that I say I serve. That's a terrible feeling.
Right.
When you really sit back and be like, dang, I don't know him like that. But I went to church. So now what do I do? Do I admit that I don't know it, or do I pretend like I do and still miss out on that true relationship?
Exactly. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because they
Yeah.
don't know what to do next.
Mm. Okay, so what do we do next? What do we do next? We have identified that selfish ambition does hinder the mission,
Right.
right? It hinders the mission. It stifles the true relationship that you can have with your creator. I think everybody wants a relationship with the creator, whether they are a current believer or not. Let's be
Right.
real. Everybody wants to have that type of thing. Okay, so now what do we do? How do we align? You already identify that each place that they have been is preparation for what the will of the Father is for their life.
Right.
How do we get past the fear of stepping into that?
Well, here's the thing. We have to get them to understand who they are. You know, some people get into a habit of chasing recognition instead of obedience. You know, my line is obedience is better than sacrifice. So you think about it. Your whole worth is based upon the opinions of others. Now, if you can get over that particular fear, there's nothing that
Mhm.
you can accomplish. I remember a long time ago, man, a friend of mine who's a millionaire he said, what would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? And you start asking people that question, then the gears start turning.
Right. But in Christ, we can never fail because there's everything we do. He works all things together for our good, right? And so that leads to that thing right there. Because if we, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
My wheels just started turning too, though. So like,
Let them turn. That's what we're here for. Let them turn.
I felt that. I understood.
Right. You measure your success by his standard, not yours. You know.
Right. But then that's again, they have to get past that fear of getting to know him and get to know the standard that he has set.
Right. So you gotta know, you know, his motives and his ways. You know what I mean? In order for you to do that, you have to spend time with him. It's just like in a relationship. In order for you to know that person, you got to spend time with him. There is no cheat code. You know, that's the main reason why relationships back in the day used to last longer, because there were less distractions. Now, if you look at a relationship now, you got 30 seconds to state your case, or you ain't, you know, this ain't gonna make it, player. You know what I'm saying? We got short attention spans. You know what I mean? We got things to do. You know, we got hustle to hustle. You know, we got to keep it moving.
Right.
You know, that's the main reason why we have to take these videos and cut them up in clips so we can give it to them in bite size. Because ain't nobody gonna sit through an hour. Or for
that is sad. That really bothers me.
Right. So we got to give it to them in bite-sized chunks.
No, they need to just get their lives together. So I want to. They do, because it takes away from like the depth of the conversation when I have to get my point across in 30 seconds. You know, like that's not fair. What I like long drawn out conversations when we're talking about a topic that could change your life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I want you to be in depth with me. I was saying on one of my lives, I was like, I've been like this since I was a kid, because when I would be in the church pews, right, and the pastor would take one scripture and be like, make a whole sermon out of it, I'd be with my Bible still reading the chapter while he's preaching, because you're not gonna bamboozle me. Like something not right. How did you make that whole sermon out of that one?
Why did you make that leap? I've been sitting in church many a times, like, how did he make that leap? Just like this past Sunday when me and Black Man was doing this video about this pastor was telling everybody, you know, you don't have to wait until married to have sex, just as long as you don't trade money for it. I'm like, why did you make that leap, player? You know what I'm saying?
Well, because he's in that perversion. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, it's kind of like where you want to convince people, because whenever you get exposed, you got to make sure that you had already kind of told people that she was in this lifestyle, or that you were okay with that type of lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like it's the precursor to the exposure.
Right. You know, I got to tell you first, you know, else you'd be saying I was lying. You know what I mean?
I already did a sermon about it. I told you how I felt.
Right.
Why are you surprised?
As long as you touch and agree, you know, hey. That's
my God, stop it.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
And you say, we got to really study. Because if we don't study, then we're going to get played.
Right.
For real. But, okay, so I just wanted to go back to selfish ambition, because I feel like that's kind of like our core, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring up a Bible verse. I don't know if you have it on your list. Which ones do you got on your list before I say this?
Go ahead. I got all of them. Remember, I wrote the show.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but I'm not trying to mess up the,
Keep going. That's
okay.
What I told you about this. You know, we got this. We're going to let the Holy Spirit do what it do.
Okay, so I'm sure you got James 3.
Right.
14 through 16.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But, okay, so you want me to, I'm going to read it, or you read it?
Read it.
You want to read it? You want to read it with authority? Because you're the male in this situation. I had to sit back.
Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Okay. I feel like you need to read
it. I got you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So it says, but if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast or be false to truth. This is not the wisdom that comes from down from above, but it's earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exists, there will be disorder and every vile practice. And so I'm bringing that up because if we look at the state of relationships, right, and just even workplaces, or just even the algorithm,
right,
right, we can see the fruit of exactly what this says here.
Right.
And so selfish ambition is a bigger problem in our community than we realize. Do you
Absolutely.
believe? Okay, do you believe? I mean, and I'm bringing the verse up because I like to say, again, the Bible has everything we need to know. Whether you believe it or not, it makes itself true every day. So you see the fruit of these things. And I feel like we all need a heart check to see, like, are we operating out of selfish ambition when we do things? Do we see the fruits of jealousy and bitterness and all of those things happening in our sphere of influence with people?
Right. Think about
Right.
even in YouTube, we look at somebody and say, "Hey, look, that person's channel's growing, blah 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 blah," and they doing all this wild stuff. I don't do none of this. You know, I would do something and talk about Christ. And I ain't got 447. I'm supposed to be getting monetized. Now, Lord, I'm doing your work, and you ain't hooking your player up. You know what I'm saying? You know, you ain't blessing me. You know, I heard you was in the blessing business. You know, rain down on me. You know what I mean? That type of thing. You know what I mean? Even though they talking about all type of mess or whatever, but hey, that's their direction. That's their thing. You know, God uses everybody for anything. You know what I mean? So he might need them for that. And I will probably be bad for that. You know, I'm good for what I'm doing right now. You know?
So, but then how do you know? Because you could be looking at that and be like, dang, why am I not monetized yet?
Right.
What's the heart check that we should have as people to make sure that we don't veer over into, like, well, I'm gonna post like this because you're not asking the Lord, right? So I'm gonna post like this because it seems like that's what they do to get the same fruit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, what do you suggest? So now I'm kicking it to you because I want to know, what do you suggest for people not to operate in selfish ambition, which ruins the mission?
Well, I will say this. I hear this all the time. You know, comparison is the thief of joy. You know, sometimes we can use other people's success as a referendum on our failures when that's not the case.
Right.
Anytime you go through life, you'll see there's examples of people who have watched other people just blow up. You know what I mean? That type of thing. And we don't understand their hustle. We don't understand their mission that they went through. We don't understand the trials and tribulations they went through. There's always, you know, some type of trial that somebody had to go through. You know,
right.
I'll give you an example. When Kevin first got started, man, he was just, you know, the fragrance guy. You know what I mean? The guy that put the bow tie on. You know what I mean? That type of thing. He didn't know he was going to blow up the way he did.
Right.
But at the same time, once he did blow up, there was also jealousy in the space too. And it was like, how dare he? He was only here for a short period of time, but he outshone everybody, even including the people that got him started. So I think a lot of times when jealousy kicks in and people are like, well, I want to do what he do. And as you can see, when people have podcasts, they ain't jumping like Kevin jumping.
No.
Kevin was built for that.
You're right.
Built for that.
For that, especially for that moment. Right. Like, so
in that particular moment, it was special because that was like right when COVID hit and everybody was locked in. And for the first time, the world was forced to pay attention to the person that's next to them. Or they were forced to look at their life and say, hey, look, now that you're not running back and forth to work and you're working from home, you have a little extra hour or two to think about what you want to do with your next move in life. Yeah. And out of that birthed a lot of businesses, sparked a lot of ideas, sparked a lot of podcasts, sparked a lot of guests, that type of thing, which leads us to the situation we're in. Now we're having better conversations. Now that Kevin led the way with that particular situation, we know how to talk to each other. We know how to identify when people are trying to deflect instead of, you know, redirecting it back into the conversation. You know what I mean? That type of thing. You know, I'm gonna let you talk, but I need you to answer the question that's on the table. You know, and that actually develops and gets people used to having tougher conversations, especially when they get in relationships. Then we also start seeing people how they actually say, look, I'm going to go to therapy because I found some things inside of me that I did not know was there. And I'm not healthy, so I really shouldn't be dating at this particular point in time. I've seen people come to that particular revelation. And some people say, I wasn't as good as a person who I thought I was.
Right.
You know, that type of thing. So Every situation that you have has its own perfect timing. And believe it or not, Kevin was a believer too. And he wouldn't say it, but I knew he was, because some of the things he would say, nobody outside of church would know. Nobody would know. And I used to say stuff in the chat, and he knew that I knew what he was doing. He was trying to put families back together, but you know how we are. We hard-headed. Yeah. You know, we like to fit in. We don't like to stick out. You know what I mean? That type of thing. We have this thing where we want to feel included. We want to have the illusion of inclusion. Right. You know what I mean? So we don't want to do anything that goes against the grain, you know? And Kevin definitely went against the grain, you know? And it was rooted in God, but people don't realize that he had to dress it up. He had to put some sugar on it to make the medicine go down, because it was a needed conversation that needed to be had on both sides. You're not as good as you think you are, player. And ma'am, you know, you really got to think about your situation and what you're offering to the table. Somebody's going to get tired of doing this, that, and the other. But in that conversation, birth better conversations that we have now. And I've actually started to see more people get married. Like, I'm in a group called Single Saving No Kids. Everybody in the group is married.
No kids.
Yeah. Right. Single saving no kids, baby. You know, we got a standard. You can't be married. You got to be single, and you can't have no kids. Everybody in that group agrees that everybody wants to start with a clean slate. You know, that type of thing. So we've had two guys who had a change of heart, and then now they're getting married. So now
what do you mean,
the leader of the group,
like, what do you mean by that?
Well, here's the thing. I'll give an example. They were not looking to get married because of how the dating situation was.
Really?
And it was through having these conversations on Facebook in different groups where we developed a strategy and said, hey, look, what does this look like? What does a healthy relationship look like? And we started talking about how do we fix that? You know what I mean? That type of thing. But see, when you're in a Christian-based group, you can fast forward things a lot faster than you can, because we have railroad tracks that we have to stay on.
Right.
So if we all stay on those same railroad tracks and we all agree, the train goes a lot faster.
Right.
But in the real world, what we do is we like to put them trains out here on the street with no tracks, and it's sliding and skipping all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Wheels just turning and the street just burning. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing.
I had a visual. That's why I said don't do that.
Right. So we have tracks that we run on, we agreed on. So once we got past that, they started to see the value in themselves and what they have to offer. And then they start seeing the value in other people and what they have to offer. So now we got two guys that get engaged, which is rare. You never see guys mention, well, guess what? She said yes. That's very rare. That's rare.
Why? Why do you say, is it that rare?
Think about it. When was the last time you saw a guy that said she said yes? Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. So especially in these spaces, you know what I mean, where people are real leery about relationships, and you better make sure you get a prenup and all this other stuff.
All of that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. You know, that type of thing. So it's wonderful when it happens. You know what I mean? That type of thing, especially when they know why they're doing it and they're doing it for the right reasons. So we congratulated them. I think about 2 years ago, the leader of the group, he got married. Then after that, we had other people in the group that was getting married. So now the group is whittling down. It's time to open the gate and let some more people in and get some of this marriage action, you know? So I'm the last guy that's in leadership that hasn't been married yet.
Well, you behind. I'm just
I got work to do. Hey, some of us like Peter, you know what I'm saying? Listen, when I find amazing, I'm gonna marry amazing. You know what I'm saying? I ain't settling for nothing else. I put it to you like that.
Something else. So it has to be amazing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Amazing in your eyes, though, because I think amazing could be different.
I'm gonna tell you what amazing in my eyes means is that you see me and you allow me to live and be the full person I'm going to be, and you're not going to put this pressure on me to perform for you.
Oh, what does a pressure to perform look like? That
Um,
is good. That's a good thing to talk about while we're talking about the selfish ambition, because people have selfish ambition because they feel a pressure to perform.
right.
What is that? What does that
Well,
look?
I'll give an example. This the whole adage of keeping up with the Joneses. You know,
Mhm.
people like to look over the fence and say, you know what, Mr. Jones bought his wife a brand new Cadillac. He must really love her. Don't you love me too? Don't you want to see me in a Cadillac? You know what I'm saying? Don't you want to see me getting over like Mrs. Jones? Well, you know, Mrs. Jones, I peeped in the window. I know what Mr. Jones do for Mr. Jones. You know what I'm saying? She go in there, she rub his back down, you know. She give him that thing that he like, you know. I ain't just saying, I'm just peeping at the window, folks at the windows, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. Since we looking over on the other side of the fence, you know, that type of thing. You know, she fixes lunch. You know, that
Yeah.
type of, man, there's things that go into the why Mrs. Jones got a Cadillac and you don't. I mean,
Right. And so
he look on the
then
other side of the fence, you know.
instead of sowing that money into the mission, he sows it into what she wants, and then
Correct.
delays what God is telling him to do
Right.
for the family. She will end up getting the Cadillac, but in God's timing.
Right.
Mm.
Selfishness. See, think about it. If you haven't been settled with who you are and where you are in your station in life,
Yeah.
you're going to allow selfish ambition or inability or inadequacy to run your life. And when you're running from the place of inadequacy, you're subject to do things that would jeopardize those around you
Wow.
for the sake of who you think you are or you should be.
Yeah.
My whole thing is if you haven't put in the work for yourself to get it, you don't deserve it.
Come on now. Say
You
it one more
don't
time.
deserve it. How many times we had conversations where people say, I don't do coffee dates. I deserve a white tablecloth restaurant. And they bring me a little towelette and wipe my hands off the table with a little bottle of hot water.
Delusional.
Correct. And
You
my
gonna
thing
get
is,
this
what did you
coffee
do to earn that?
first.
Yes. You know, and matter of fact, you can get some extra sugar while you at it.
As a creamer, you know, some
Cream too,
hazelnut.
you know what I'm saying? Yes. Garcon, put some more sprinkles on that for me.
No, I agree with you. But I think again, it's society's fault that people are like this though. Like where women think that they should have a 5-star date on the first date.
Right. He don't even know you, ma'am.
He doesn't know you.
And my thing is this, would you want to date a sucker anyway?
No, not really. No.
Correct. So you asking for two different things. You asking for a man to be a leader and a steward of his wealth. But yeah, you want him to be frivolous when it comes to dating and just
When it
get
comes to
away.
dating you.
Yes. That don't add up. It's a contradiction.
Well, yeah, but people are hypocrites, right? They say that they want a certain thing, but when the person exudes that certain thing, that characteristic, like I'm financially stable, how did you get there? Because I'm financially responsible, right? Yes. And coffee.
Coffee. Cheap. It helps weed out those who showed up for, you know, anything other than me. You know?
Sorry.
And if you say no to coffee, I'm like, you know what? Thanks for playing, you know?
Yeah, because I'm not doing it. I get it. It is frustrating. I mean, I like listening about your group, like, oh, that's good hope. It does give you hope.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that to combat it, they have to see more people being selfish in relationships, selfless in relationships, right? Like less selfish ambition and understanding that we have a core mission. We're in this mission together. If we have to eat noodles for the next 6 months to make it happen, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
I'm just saying like that's something, but okay, there's not a lot of people out there like that. Like that's just what I'm going to say. It's not a lot of people who aren't selfish. I think the first words that kids have, you know, initially after mama and dada is it's mine.
Right.
It's mine.
Right.
You got to whoop that out of them. You got to whoop them and say, no, you're going to share. So it's not
you got to teach them how to share, you know.
They'd be like, if they like what you had, they'll claim it and say, it's mine. Right? You've seen fights. I've seen plenty of fights between kids where I'm like, that's actually his. That belongs to his. How did you take his stuff and say that it belongs to you?
Exactly. But I will tell you this though. You got to look at it from a point where every little lesson that we learn as kids, it goes into a greater lesson that we use as adults. You know, in that particular situation, when we start talking about coffee dates or whatever, the Bible said the Lord loves a cheerful giver. That means you want to give from the abundance of your heart, the cheerfulness, because you brought joy into my life. You see what I'm saying? So as a result, I want to return the favor, if you don't mind. You know what I mean? That type of thing. And you tell them, I said, look, this is what you did for me. And because you've done that for me, I want to give this abundantly. You ever had somebody to give you something begrudgingly? You're like, you might as well go and kept that.
Yeah, I don't want it.
I'll give you another example. You ever had somebody to cook something for you and it tastes like they didn't put no love in it at all? It's all raw on the inside, not flavorful, not seasoned, you know?
And no one will bake a cake for you and have an attitude with you while they bake that cake. It ain't gonna rise. Like, I don't care. It's gonna be dry.
It don't taste the same. It does not. Think about it. Your grandmama used to cook back in the day. She used to cook all day long and turn that stove down low and let that thing simmer all day long. And when you got it, it tastes like love was on the inside. You know, that thing was seasoned with life's lessons, you know what I mean? And patience and love, you know what I mean? And testament, you know what I mean? That type of thing. And then when she pulled that thing and you tasted it, like, man, I know what love is now. Thank you, Grandma. And then when you get somebody else to make something for you, they throw a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the table saying, I'm feeding you. I don't want that. That was made with love. You didn't cut the edges off. You know, warm the peanut butter up. You know, you ain't give me no glass. You look like you want me to choke on this dry peanut butter sandwich. No, I'm good. You keep that. Matter of fact, you eat it. You know what I'm saying? You give them back what they give to you. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So think about it, man. When you're in relationships like that, when people come at you with that dry ambition for selfishness, when they're trying to get something from you, versus giving you, that relationship doesn't flourish.
No,
it doesn't. Right. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, but people are building relationships out of, okay, so we know that in the community they've had, what can you bring to the table? Right.
That's
I'm not saying that
that's an honest conversation in my book. But go ahead.
It's a what conversation?
Honest conversation.
It is an honest conversation. I'm not saying that it's a bad conversation. What I'm saying is that it ends up where you are being in comparison with each other, though. I would say the question is, does your vision match with mine? Like, is the mission the same? Because you could bring 1,000 things to the table, but we still not be, the mission doesn't match. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I've seen people bring stuff to the table and I'm like, that's pretty good. But that doesn't really go with what God showed me that my life is going to be like. That's not what he trained me for. So I can't do nothing for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I do think that the conversation should be had, but maybe the wording should be legit. Does the mission that God has given me, is what you're bringing to the table going to ignite that mission? Is it going to add favor, like the Lord says, to the mission? Right.
It's like a set of skills. You know what I mean? And when people sit down and have that conversation, normally they start spouting off, you know, tangible things like, I have a degree, I make so much money, I have a car, I have a house, blah, 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 that type of thing. And I'm going to ask you a question. How do you make people around you feel better? How have you honed that? Can you do that? Because the place where I'm going to need you to be able to do that.
Right.
Because I'm going to be helping people. I don't need you to turn them off to God when I'm trying to turn them on to God.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a legit question.
That's a legit question. Can you give me an example of, you know, in your history where you've actually been able to help other people and they feel good about themselves after meeting you? How's your soft skills, man? Seriously. I've noticed how you rough handled the waiter and it's not looking good.
Right.
You know,
If you talk to that waiter, I'm not sure that I want to be with you.
me,
Like,
it seems like nothing is good enough. You sent your plate back 3 times. Is this what I'm expecting in a relationship? You're gonna keep sending me out the door to get certain things and never add things on a list and waste my time? Is that what you're going to do?
yeah, and that's what they are going to do.
Yes.
So that's why I said I feel like the questions should be different, and people need that type of training so that they don't ask surface level questions.
Right. But here's the beauty, though. My grandmother used to tell me, "What's in the well will come up in the bucket." So let the question be open, so that way whatever's truly in there truly comes up. You see what I'm saying? That's how you know you're getting water from a spring that's pure. Because if their answer is pure, you know what I mean? If they say something like, hey, I went to school for this, that, and the other, and it has absolutely nothing to do with that, and everything they've ever done has been selfish, and you know for a fact that that's been tainted. Well, who's been talking to you? Who's your leader? Who's your mentor? You know what I mean? Who have you leaned on? Who has leaned on you? Those are some questions that allow me to peek into the making of who you are without knowing or without asking you, so you're offended. Because when you start asking real questions, that's when people clam up and you really can't communicate. If one person is hiding, like we talked about earlier, thinking, am I in trouble? You know what I'm saying? You're not in trouble.
He said,
I just need to know where I need to start from with you.
Maybe.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So if they say something different, like, say, I'll give an example. Say, for instance, somebody say, well, my grandmother's real close to me, and she's always had, different ways, and she's shown me how to cook. And she's always told me certain things. And she starts telling her stories about her love for her grandmother. And she started telling stories about people that's loving her around her, that type of thing, and people who are dear to her heart. To me, that's somebody who understands and appreciates those people in her life.
Right.
So that way, if they appreciate those people, that's a good indicator that they will appreciate you, because you're actually there and it's not a performance.
Right.
Because your grandmother gets nothing from you being in her life.
Yeah.
I
agree. Okay. So you say even with the service level questions, you can still, if you listen, keywords, if you listen, right? If you listen, you will be able to discern the heart of the person.
Right.
Okay. Maybe there should be like a dating 101. Huh?
It should be.
Right. Like questions to ask, or how to approach what do you bring to the table conversation.
Right. It really needs to be a little bit more nuanced, because if you get somebody who's offended, they've already shown their hand. They've already told you, look, I got no spades. I got no face cards. I'm jacked. You know what I mean? They already told you they ain't got nothing. But somebody who does have all the spades and all the face cards, they like, I got you, man. You ain't got no partner. I got you right. You ain't got to worry about nothing. You know what I'm saying? But somebody who got the trump card and the face cards and the big joker and the little joker, they be having that little smile like, go ahead, go on out there, Cleto.
Yeah.
I got something for you. You know what I'm saying?
You're so silly.
I'm glad you asked what I bring to the table.
For real. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I come with grit, ambition, determination. You know what I'm saying? I know how to build.
Right?
I know how to notice when you're sick. I know how to keep you healthy, girl. You know what I mean? I'll take you.
Hallelujah.
You need to. I rub your back, put lotion on your back, run your bath water, girl. You know what I'm saying?
All that, yeah.
I'll fix your lunch when you need to, that type of thing. You know what I mean? Make sure you all right. If you run out of deodorant or whatever, I already got it on auto buy. You ain't got to go shopping, none of that. That
is hilarious.
I know how to balance that checkbook. You know what I'm saying? I know how to put money in the checkbook. You know what I mean? I know how to do all of that. And all you got to do is just be you. What is it that you want to develop? How do you want to develop as a person? Is there an area of who you are you would like to explore, but you can only do it if a little bit of your time is freed up? I'm willing to give up a little bit of my time so you can get a little bit of that time so you can go back and explore who you are.
Should that be a two-way thing?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just
Without
asking.
question.
Just asking because sometimes people say that, and then I'm just wondering, like, is that
You
a
know what you
two-way
should ask? Could you give me an example where you've demonstrated that?
thing?
And now we having conversations. Just think
Mhm.
about it. Anybody could say anything. You can be smooth. You can be a silver-tongued devil like me and say anything. You know,
Why'd you call yourself a silver-tongued devil? Like, I had to get in the mic for that one. Hold on.
that
Why
used to be
did
my
you?
nickname back in the day. You know, I used
Oh,
to talk to him. You know what I'm saying? I used to say, I
oh,
used to
you
have
talk
conversations
people out
with
them draws,
him.
huh?
Nah, I wouldn't say all of that, but I'm just saying they used to volunteer.
Ah,
You know what I'm saying?
You hear what I said?
They used to volunteer. I'm just saying. But now I'm a new creature. Creature in Christ.
I like the way you were like, but I'm a new creature. Okay, so bypass that in the name of Jesus.
Yes. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, I'm a new creature. You know. I learned to use my powers for good and not evil. I'm just saying.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm just laughing with you because I
mm,
understood that. I don't think
exactly.
people understand that because so even that type of trait, that's good that you said that because people will be like, oh, I need to change. Like I'm gonna change my personality in a sense, but God just took what you used for evil at some point in your life, right?
Yeah,
And now he's turned it to where he could utilize that for the good and to be able of the kingdom and
that's
the
right.
mission at hand. So
That's right.
like no, he just goes ahead and takes the gift that he gave you and perfects it and makes it do what it was supposed to do in the first place.
Correct. We put it back on the train tracks.
Yeah, because it was off. It was like
Yes.
yeah.
I just say he
Pray.
kept me.
Pray about it. Pray about it.
Hey, he kept me.
Pray about it. Pray about it.
Just
Just let it
saying.
go. Yeah. Okay, so look, you have Bible verses too. What do you got? What you got going on?
Let's go back. We're gonna wrap it. I'm gonna give you a couple. Let me give you a
Okay.
couple.
All right.
Because I'm gonna skip down to the part where how do you get back into favor? How do you learn how to submit to God's mission versus your own ambition?
Ooh.
Trusting God's plan. Proverb. I like to give people action plan at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to just have show up, we just have entertainment or whatever. I like to give people little tools and nuggets that
Yeah.
can actually apply to their life and
Mm-hmm.
use it and be edutained, as we used to call it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the first one is trusting God's plan. Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Which
Okay.
goes back to the train tracks we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait. Okay. All right. So basically, like your life, the trauma, the perspectives that you've had, you need to bypass that, get in your word, and
Right.
get to understand God's will for your life. Like get to understand God because he lists the purpose in the Bible, right?
Right.
And then align with that. He'll direct your steps
Correct.
versus you picking which way you go.
Exactly. Because here's the
Okay.
thing, we always assume that God's purpose won't result in what we actually want.
Mm-hmm.
It actually does.
Mm-hmm.
It just don't look like a straight path sometimes.
Right.
And we got to be cool with that.
Right.
And you know what actually straightens that path out? Obedience.
It be
Obedience.
Okay.
Obedience is better than sacrifice.
Right.
Think how many times then people had to walk around in the forest for 40 years.
They were supposed to be only there for 44 days and they made it 40 years because
You know why, don't you? Because they were being disobedient.
yeah.
Now God sustained them, because he said, I'm gonna take care of you. But they were obedient. They were disobedient.
And that's good to talk about because God could still be sustaining you / blessing you in your disobedience. And that probably what made people think that they might be on the right path, right? Is the sustainability of God.
Correct.
Until he decides to just give you over, because they're just like, oh, okay, this is the path that you want to choose. You're going to bear these fruit now, right? Like all of it. I'm not going to bless you because you're disobedient.
Right.
So I think that's where people get confused. I think because people still see blessings in their disobedience that they don't realize that they're being disobedient.
Right. But here's the thing: when you line up with God's mission,
Mm-hmm.
the reward becomes overflow. It's abundance. That He'll open up the windows of heaven that you won't have room enough to receive. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen that happen before.
Right.
Oh
Right.
my. I've seen that happen before. When your mission line up with God's mission, oh boy. You know what I mean? Things just start happening a little bit better, you know?
Yeah. I'll say that the one time that it did happen for me, I actually fear crept in and I sabotaged intentionally because that level of I mean, I'm being honest, this is real because people could do this. That level of windows being open and that abundance, if you've never had it before and you don't know how to steward it, or you weren't prepared, or you didn't pay attention to a part where he was training you for that, you could sabotage it. I've done that. And so to people, I would say, pray for the wisdom to not sabotage when he does open those windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that you don't have room enough to receive, because your fear could ruin that. I do want to make sure that I say that because I've done it. I've done it. Yeah. Because when his overflow comes, you guys, it's undeniable that it's God. And the glory can be a little bit alarming for most. So
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, the glory is something else. Don't okay.
Listen, it reminds me of the poem from Marion Williamson. She said, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Mm,
It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be?
mm,
You are a child of God."
yeah. That's beautiful. It's true. It's true. Yeah,
Thank
don't
you.
sabotage your overflow.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a
I
lot
mean,
of people,
huh?
a
You
lot
think
of
a lot
people
of
fear. They fear that. They fear success.
true success?
True
Not
success.
because the success,
Not
the
fake
success,
success.
yeah, the
Yeah.
success we can control, we can handle that. But the one where we know that abundance came from God and there's nothing we can do about it
Right.
until he shuts it down.
Right.
Oh, there's no control there. Submitting your life to Christ is scary for people because they know that they don't control anything that happens anymore.
Right. If you think about it, it's how he wants it to be
Mm-hmm.
because it shows faith.
Yeah.
And then when it's used on the other side, for the devil's side, it's the exact opposite. Say, for instance, for a fact God has joy on the other side of that fear. But you have to make sure you face your fear so that way when you're obedient, you enter into overflow and joyfulness. Well, look at it the other way. The devil doesn't require you to have faith. You don't fear what he has because he's giving you what you want.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then on the flip side of that, there's consequences.
Right.
Dire.
Dire.
Easy to get in, but now it's hard to get out of. And see, with
Right.
God, it's hard to get in, but it's easy to stay in.
It's you gonna work for this.
Right.
You gonna show yourself approved.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. So I think that's one of those things, man, where people really need to think about it. It's easier for you to be obedient and stay on the path and try to do things your own way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we hard-headed like that because we're like, let me see if that's really true. How long do you want to get set back, player? That's what I always feel. How long you want to be set back?
Man.
Sometimes you don't get to choose where you start over from.
No, not at all. And okay.
Good. Let that thing marinate. You don't get to choose where you start over from.
And he will start you over.
Yes.
Like over.
Yes.
But when you get back, you'll know, okay, I will steward this better and I will stay in obedience to Christ.
Right.
because that disobedience is disrespect.
Right.
It's just like having a parent. You know what I'm saying? It's your disobedience, disrespect. Okay, what else do you got? What else you got? Lean not onto your own understanding. Okay,
Right.
so we're not doing that no more.
Right. Surrendering control.
Mm-hmm.
Psalms 55:22. Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. We just talked about sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
He will never let the righteousness be forsaken, nor his seed begging for bread. 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people like to think that they're being anxious for no reason. You know what I
Right.
mean? So cast your cares on Him and don't worry about it. If you're gonna pray, pray. If you're gonna worry about it. But you ain't finna do both. You ain't finna be out here confusing God.
That's wild. I actually said that to myself today. That is wild.
What I told you about that. We supposed to be having this conversation.
You gotta stay out of my business. I'm just playing.
Hey, you know, one's a coincidence, but two's two is confirmation.
Okay, I know, but still, you in my business. You gotta stay out. I'm just playing. Nah, I need that. I needed that. Go ahead. I'm listening.
It was a reminder. It was a reminder.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, I know.
I feel some type of way.
Yeah, I know. That's how it's supposed to be. You know, you don't know where them slaps gonna be coming from. You know what I mean? It can come from him. It can come from me. It can come from anywhere. You know. I used to get mine from different people, just random folks on the street. Like, Lord, why you send this dude? You don't look like nothing. God knows you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had this bum talking to me, man. What's wrong with you? You know who I am. No, do you know who I am? Yeah, I can speak through a bum to talk to you. You know, player. You know.
Yeah, I had some good conversations with bums. You know, like with people on the street that just, I'm like, how did you know that? You know, we over here living on this picnic table.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that reminds me of? My favorite song my dad used to play on the radio. He used to play the song that dudes used to say, I'm just a nobody. Trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. Let me tell you something. That was my song right there. I know we can't play it or we get copyrighted all the time. But that used to be my song right there.
I think you could play like a little snippet and you gotta stop it.
I'm gonna give it to you like I used to give it in church. I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. Remember that from back in the day?
Oh, that's a good. I mean, like somebody gave you hearts. Look, pull them up.
Hey, Michon, how you doing, darling? Hey, Michon be over there raising hell, and we over here and shutting hell down. We appreciate it. Michon, I'm letting you know I enjoyed your show today, and I hope the jalapeno mimosa was everything you hoped and it was dream. Let me tell y'all something. I support other content creators. I really do. I sit up and I actually watch their stuff. You know what I mean? Because it brings joy to my heart and it also gives me ambition to keep going where I want to go. You know what I mean? She said it was everything. I knew it was. I saw the smile on your face when you started on the second one. It had to be good to you. And she said, we appreciate you. Let me tell you something about Michon, man. Michon is one of those type of people. If you hadn't subscribed to her show, make sure you go over there, man. You will be thoroughly entertained. She is one of the best content creators, man, that I noticed when I started first come on the scene. And I watched her grow and she just keeps showing up, you know, and that's one of those things that allows me to just keep showing up when it's time for me to do my podcast. I'm going to give Michon her flowers and her roses, you know what I mean, while she's here. You know,
you got to.
I appreciate Michon, man. I really do. But yeah, it's one of those things, man. We have to make sure that that's right. I see the love is real over here, man.
Yeah.
She ain't thinking she's gonna come up and get loved on. You know what I mean? You know, we love on people over here. And we don't want to throw them under the bus. You know what I mean? But we appreciate you.
A little bit.
That's right. That's right. And then Braxton saying hello. Hey, Braxton, what's going on, brother? And of course, you know, Trey up in the building. We appreciate y'all coming through, man.
Trey said don't agree with that woman at all. I just want to say that one more time.
It's very few people Trey agree with, and that's why I appreciate him. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Because Trey keep it real. You know what I mean? Trey is like the heartbeat of the streets. You know, if it don't sound right, I want to know why it don't sound right to him.
Right.
You know
He's like, I don't agree with her at
I
all.
don't believe in none of that. I'm like, well, talk to us, Trey. You know, I appreciate that. You know, that type of thing.
You
I
shut that
appreciate
down
that.
quick.
That's right.
That sounds stupid.
Think about it, man. Hey, honestly, it's hard to come by these days. You got to get it how you can. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, but that's basically what he should have said. That sounds stupid.
Hey, you know, he probably did say that in his mind. You know what I mean? That sounds like something Trey would say. You know, that sounds. You know, but some people wake up a little slowly on their own time, and God bless. You know what I'm saying? That's all right. That's why we use that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where we gonna go from this? God's strength, not ours. Isaiah 41:10.
Okay.
Oh, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Yes.
Okay.
2 Corinthians 12:9. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So also you want to be able to rest in God's timing too. This is why I talk about being obedient and waiting on God's timing. This is Ecclesiastes 3:11.
Okay.
He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. So you got to be cool with his timing.
And sometimes
he could be moving things out of the way, make your train tracks a little bit easier.
Right, because he makes the crooked path straight, right? So, okay. You got anything? You got any? What else you got? What you got over there?
I got Philippians 4.
Evening. How are you? He said something to you too. Evening.
It's Braxton.
Yep.
You do nothing much but to make a few pancakes and have some ribs. That's right. That's good right there. Now he got me hungry, man.
Pancakes and ribs? Like that's a real thing?
That's the new chicken and waffles, man. You know what I'm saying? Pancakes and ribs, man. Better ask somebody.
For real?
Hey, it sounds good like it go together. I'm gonna mess around and try it. Don't think too hard. Don't think too hard. Philippians.
Don't think too hard.
Don't think too hard. Just let it happen. You know what I'm saying?
Because I was like.
Think about it. Nobody thought chicken and waffles would be good. What's wrong with pancakes and ribs?
Okay, I'm not arguing. My mind is trying to contemplate.
Ain't nothing but a thing. Just try it. You know, just try it and see. Philippians 4:6-7.
Okay.
Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Okay.
He answered. He says because he's from Louisiana and they do all kinds of stuff down here. But that sounds like some Louisiana type stuff.
So that sounds like some gumbo action. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that sounds flavorful though. Like when you right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Matthew 6:10, letting God's will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as is in heaven. Romans 8:28. And he will know that all things God works for the good of those who love him.
Right.
Who have been called according to his purpose.
So people have to just get in the will of God.
Correct.
They just have to get to know God to get in the will of God. So they just have to decide to I want to get to know the God. I want to get to know the God that I say I serve.
Right.
Okay. All right. What else you got?
That's it so far.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got one. I got one to add. I only got one to add. That's it. You ready?
Yes.
All right. So Philippians, I know you didn't say that. All right. Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. And it says, and the reason why I picked this one is because it said do nothing. And so I wanted to emphasize the underline do nothing. Just to remind people, do absolutely nothing. So you got to check your heart posture every time you make a move, from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others, which you actually talked about like before. But then even when Michonne came on, how you gave her your, did I say her name right? Did I say your name right, girl?
Michonne,
Okay. But how you gave her flowers, how you did like show her significance even on your platform, right? So that was like a form of doing that, of what Philippians chapter 2 says. You did not have a selfish ambition when you were doing it. You were just giving her flowers and esteeming her higher than yourself, which keeps you humble. And so that's the only one I want to add, because if we do that, if we operate like that, it would be so different.
Right.
Everything would be so different. Our jobs would be different. Our relationships would be different. Friendships would be different. This world would be different, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's it. That's all I wanted to add. That's all I got.
That's all you got.
That's enough. Yeah, because it said do nothing. If we would just stick to that.
All you can say, you've said all you can say, and you've done enough.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
so
it.
be it. In the words of the Lord, so be it.
That's right. May the readers of his word bless and keep those who listen and whoever,
For real. I think that was good. I think we did what your purpose on the show was to state the problem, right? Have a little fun in the middle, and then give the solution. There's only one solution, though. I feel like people want 1,000 different solutions, but if we don't start with the foundation of Christ or God, Christ, God, whatever, however they want to word this, because I don't want to argue with nobody in the comments, right? But if we start with that foundation, then everything overflows from that,
right?
Positively, because those good fruits come from Him.
That's right.
And not from anybody else. So look, my knee is up in here. I didn't got relaxed. I'm just chilling now.
You.
Yeah, I'm tired.
See, here's my thing. What I want everybody to take away from this. Everybody starts at a different place. So don't beat yourself up for where you are. You know what I mean? You have your own mission. God has a plan for you, what he needs you to do. Your mission may not look like mine. It may not look like Jamie's. It may not look like Michonne's or Braxton's or Trey's. Just as long as you have a relationship with God, you'll be fine. He'll give you what you're supposed to do. Right. He won't give you somebody else's mission. He'll give you your own personal mission. And from that, you'll grow and you'll develop into the person that you want to be and who God sees you as, And with that being said, Jamie, I want to thank you for being a wonderful co-host this evening.
This was good though. I enjoyed it. It got me thinking about certain things. I always like conversations where I go back and be like, I need to adjust that mindset there. Right. Which develops the person. Well, develops me. I like to be better. I always like to be better. So yeah, I enjoyed this.
Well, good. What's one thing that you'll take away from this that was a revelation for you?
Oh, one thing?
Yeah, just one thing.
There's so many though. But like more so my perspective on the what do you bring to the table conversation, and how even the insignificant questions that I think are insignificant could be more valuable than what I have put on them. Does that make I used to be like, that's such a question. What can I get from somebody answering that? But you have me now going, okay, wait, I can see how valuable even that little, what is your favorite color, or what what degrees do you have, or what can you do that I can't do for myself type thing, how it can open up a different perspective or dialogue on the person that you're speaking to. So yeah, that right there, because I'm very close-minded on that a little.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. What? Because people just be so angry. I'd be like, I don't mind that question, but why are we so hostile all the time? Like, can we just relax a little bit? Just
Right.
breathe. I know there's a lot of broken people. I know people have been hurt, but good God, like, let it
You know where that
go.
comes from? You know where that comes from? It comes from people not knowing what they bring. You know, sometimes we don't know how good we are because
Yeah.
we don't do self-examination.
Right. Oh, see, yeah.
We don't know. We don't read our ingredients on our box from time to time. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes your ingredients says patience. Sometimes your ingredient says faith. Sometimes your ingredient says, you know, hustle, ambition, love, joy, peace. You know, what does your ingredient say on your box? You know, does it have the fruits of the spirit? Is it listed as the ingredients on the box? If I look down the ingredients in your box, do you contain any unnecessary ingredients?
Right. I see what you're saying, but that's what I got from it.
Yeah.
What'd you get? Since you want to, okay, we're going to co-host.
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. One of the things that I got from this is my influence on other people, on how I behave and how I see them and how I show up for them. You know, that type of thing. If I show up with joy, peace, and love in my heart to somebody else, I kind of want that to rub off on them as well. And if I show up with the wrong heart posture, if I show up with a nasty heart or something like that, then I really shouldn't be surprised if I look in the mirror into the eyes of another person and I get that back.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. So I always want to make sure that I correct who I am first before I open my mouth and correct my posture. So that way a gentle answer will turn away wrath. That's how I look at it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that was good. Okay. All right. Growth.
Yes. So we gained something tonight. And I hope everybody gained something tonight. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for coming out. If you get an opportunity, make sure you guys hit the like button, hit subscribe. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, leave them in the comment section. Jamie, tell the people how they can reach you.
Nah, we just gonna end the show. I'm good.
You good? James like, nah, that's all right. I'm good.
No, just like follow him. I'm good. I'm being honest. Like, I don't got nothing for the people right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming out though. I really do. As always, it's a pleasure. Listen, guys, if you want to support the show, make sure you guys hit the Cash App. Let Black Man Unfiltered know that you thank him for allowing us to have shows like this to actually make the conversations that we have a little bit better, a little bit brighter. I do appreciate you guys for coming out. Thanks again for coming out Between the Lines podcast. I'm your host, Lost in Translation, and my co-host, Miss Jamie. I thank you for coming out. Thank you guys. Good evening and God bless. Peace.